What's been the worst experience you've had so far in your journey of music?
With music?
Yes.
Shy.
Or there are a lot of them.
yeah. I mean, there's so many.
Okay, the one that comes on top of your head.
I mean, the generic ones are, people book you and they don't pay you.
Okay.
There are people that will use your music without asking you, and then you have to chase them, and it's all sorts of things.
Okay.
And there are people that, you give your music to for free, but they won't do the paperwork, to make sure that it's legit and everything. But I think the most difficult experience is, let me do two.
Okay.
So one aspect is, not being able to create the music the way that you want, and people still liking it. It's the most heartbreaking thing ever.
Really?
Yeah, it's very heartbreaking because sometimes when the song ideas come to my head, they are very specific.
Okay.
Like very vivid. Like I know the intro, there's a cello that opens with a low note, like a low E, and then it just drones throughout, and then everything goes on, and then you hear these voices in the background, and there's all this layering. And I take my guitar and I do a short demo, and everybody's like, "Yo, release this." I'm like, "No, guys, stop it."
I'm sure I'm one of those guys.
Everybody's like, "Yeah, release it." Even when I used to record music on my phone, people would be like, "Release it." I'm like, "No, guys, this was recorded on the phone." Like, I don't want to wake up 20 years from now and cringe at something that could have possibly been like a masterpiece of some sort. Yeah, okay. So that's one aspect. That's the thing that's the most heartbreaking about the music that I make.
I didn't expect that, but
yeah. But one of the other bad experiences is I got signed. I'm not going to mention which label or where they came from. It was not Ghana.
Okay.
I got signed, and they gave me the impression that they understood the music, and they understood, or if they didn't understand, that they were going to work with me to figure out, how to sell the music. They just ended up being like a regular
record label.
Just do a few singles, do a few covers, and release that, and then we'll get you into the system, and then we'll put you in some shiny suits with 15 girls in a car, and that was very disappointing. That was very disappointing. And it took like a lot of fighting to get out of that deal.
Wow.
But I finally got out of that deal.
So you had signed with them already?
Yeah, I had.
Wow.
I had. It was mostly like a deal memo, but the language of the contract was very binding.
Okay.
And so to get out of that would mean that we both had to agree that we were no longer taking that route. On paper. Yeah.
Interesting. So what genre will you put you? I generally describe your music as alternative, but what's
alternative?
You, once again, you don't like tags.
Such a weird thing. And no offense to I don't want to say this, but I'll say it. It's almost like the LGBTQIA thing, right?
Yeah.
Because you bunch everybody who is not mainstream together,
right?
But they all have like unique problems, right? You talk about lesbians and gays, they're talking about like equal love between, and then you're talking about people who have identity, right? You're talking about people that are what do you call it? How do you break it down?
Yeah, you're breaking it.
So there are people that intersex, right? Intersex is like physically they have both traits, so that's an identity thing, right?
I feel
exactly. So it's like putting all of us who are not making the mainstream type of music together. So alternative could be Lagbaja,
true,
right? It could also be what's his name? Blacko.
Yeah, Blacko.
If you think about it in the sense of what we were doing before he started doing drill music, you would have put him as alternative.
True.
You can put people like Lady Donley. You can put people like so it's like when you say alternative,
big category.
But also I used to think it was very insulting to say it's the alternative, but alternative to what?
Okay.
Right? It's like you're legitimizing mainstream as this is what ought to be. and then everything else, right?
I feel it.
I really don't like the term. I don't mind it now because inner peace.
So what would you describe it as?
My music is whatever it is to you when you hear it. Because those who have access to like my music from before, like Instagram, for instance, they have heard like the same song played so many different ways. Like I have a song called Walk Away, which in its first iteration was a reggae song.
Okay.
Then became like some very classical composition on the piano, then became something else. Am I Crazy also has like 6 different versions that are all like different genres. And so the song is what it is when you meet it. It's like whatever I felt like, whatever was natural to me at the moment, the way I performed it, that's how it was. But that's not the only way that song will exist. And so it's difficult to put anything in any block. Yeah.
Are you happy?
Am I happy with everything? That's the question. I would with everything in life.
With everything.
Happiness is such a weird construct, right? I would say I'm at peace.
Okay.
Easier thing to understand than happiness, because then it means I'm not anxious about much. I'm not agitated by anything or threatened or fearful of anything.
Right.
So I'm at peace, mostly with the music process, because there was a point in time when I thought, you have to, like release music and do this and do that and do photo shoots and do all that. I have come to make peace with the fact that I don't have to. That everybody's journey is unique to themselves. And so in that vein, I'm not worried about that. In terms of music, my life, everything happens in its own stages. I'm not exactly happy about certain things, like having to do like a 9 to 5 in order to do the things that I love and afford all the crazy gear, because I'm a gearhead. But it's a necessity because it's like you have to do this in order to get, and life is all about compromises.
True.
And
process.
it took me a while to figure out that there is no way you're going to get through life, standing, like concrete and saying, no, I'm not ever going to bend any single rule of, I think the journey for me has been finding what my core values are, and interpreting those core values in as many contexts as I can.
Okay.
So that, right, when I'm compromising, I am not compromising in a way that goes against those values. But that I'm compromising on the smaller things. Like for instance, somebody says, are you going to release music? I say, the music is not where I'd want it to be. A few years ago I would have been like, nah, never releasing this music. But now what I would do, like, and this happens all the time, people will ask and all I will do is I'll do a show. I'll do a show. I'll play the songs for you live. And when you come, you can record what you want. Or I'll put out videos from those performances, like the City interview.
Right.
Like there's a version of the music online. You can listen to it that way. And so that's a compromise. Okay. Right?
Which ideally before you wouldn't have done.
I wouldn't have done at all. Because it's like, I don't want any version of this song to exist in any way, shape or form outside of what I intended to be. And so that's one idea of compromise. Sometimes too, especially in relationships recently, like, human beings, like you will compromise on something like, maybe, for instance, I don't like going to the beach, right? Because I'm traumatized from Afro Nation 2019.
Okay.
But
tell us a story.
someday David Mekamasa. But maybe your partner loves the beach, right? So the compromise would be, okay, I will go to the beach. I will not run around the beach. I'm not going to pretend that I'm happy to be at the beach, but I will be at the beach with you. Okay. Because I know you love the beach and you would want me to be there with you. And so you go there and maybe you take a guitar and you sit in your little corner and you play the guitar and they are around and they know that you are there. And sometimes it's about just that, you know, knowing that you are there, that makes them happy. It's not that they want you to go and break all your rules, but you know, just bend it a bit so that we can both have a little bit of what we want in life.
I think that point has been my biggest lesson also, like adulting, because I think if you're an idealist, you have this way the world should work in your head, but then there's a real world and you are like, okay, that's not how the world actually works. And so that finding that point where you decide to compromise to get ahead or to move along, to get to the point you do want to get to, is a very, very vital lesson.